All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new. Thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate it. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. So, as always, do me a big favor before we dive into these topics. If you end up enjoying the content or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well. Now, before I get into these topics, I do want to address the chat just for a moment here and let everybody know if you are considering donating a super chat during this stream or becoming a channel member, I would recommend you hold off on that. Wait to do that until we are done the news segment because I have a little surprise I think you guys might like. Yeah, just wanted to put that out here. But we are going to dive into the first topic here, which talks about Ubisoft's new first person shooter that apparently might end up being a Call of Duty competitor. Okay, we talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but I wanted to give it its own topic here. This is coming from VGC, and they say Ubisoft has kicked off a closed beta test for its upcoming free to play FPS X Defiant. It's available on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. And the crossplay test is running until April 23rd, and players can register for a chance to take part. Participants can step into the shoes of four Ubisoft franchise inspired factions: the Cleaners, which are inspired by The Division; Libertad, inspired by Far Cry 6; Echelon, inspired by Splinter Cell; and Phantoms, inspired by Ghost Recon. Each faction includes three characters, one of which is unlocked from the start, with the others unlockable through missions. Players can compete across 14 maps using 24 weapons, 44 attachments, and 5 explosive devices. While progression won't be carrying over to the full game, Ubisoft said players will be able to keep up to 10 exclusive cosmetic items at release, and the game is also going to be available on PS4 and Xbox One. Here's an important tidbit here. X Defiant is in development at Ubisoft San Francisco and led by executive producer Mark Rubin, who previously held the same position at the Call of Duty Modern Warfare studio Infinity Ward. So, yeah, there's a reason why Call of Duty players are pretty much flocking to this game and talking about it online. It's kind of all the rage right now, I guess you could say, in the FPS genre. And it's interesting because we do see this happen from time to time where a new exciting first person shooter comes out and then the conversation becomes like, is this the next Call of Duty? A lot of times it turns out not to be the case, and I think right now it's safe to say that Call of Duty still has not been dethroned. I think it's totally understandable to to those who for those I should say who are looking at X Defiant and thinking, yeah, I don't think this is going to do it. I think that's completely understandable. This is very early for a game like X Defiant, and it has a lot to prove. And I don't think anybody is going to sit here and say that, yeah, this is definitely going to be the game that does it for sure. This is the new Call of Duty. It's going to take a lot of time. It has a lot to prove. That's a very large mountain to scale. But the conversation right now is very, very positive, very optimistic. And the reason why I wanted to cover this is because, well, I just wanted to let people know about the game, but it's extremely ironic that we're even having this conversation, that people are even out here comparing this game to Call of Duty, because we have Microsoft out here spending $68 billion dollars to acquire Activision Blizzard, to acquire Call of Duty. And we simultaneously have Sony coming out here making the argument that it's impossible to compete with Call of Duty. So my hope is that maybe if this game begins to take off and really does seem like an actual viable Call of Duty competitor, maybe it will inspire Sony to, turn around and say, you know what, if Ubisoft can do it, or at least get close to doing it, let's give it a shot, right? Let's do something with Killzone. Let's do something with Resistance, SOCOM, a new IP maybe. So that's another reason why I wanted to mention this. Moving on to the next topic in line, this is just a very short update, potentially a disappointing one. In the last episode and in the last video, we talked about the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake and how it was being teased. It says here from PlayStation Lifestyle, over the weekend, Metal Gear singer and voice actress Donna Burke caused quite a stir after publishing tweets and photos that appeared to be teasing MGS3 remake. Turns out that was just the gaming community's wishful thinking yet again. Burke probably wasn't prepared for all the hype her tweets resulted in. We admit we fell for it too, seeing all of the hoopla, as they put here. Burke announced last night that she was simply recording Snake Eater for fun, and her recording session has nothing to do with Konami or the rumored Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. So, yeah, definitely a letdown. Continues by saying later, fellow composer Mason Lieberman confirmed that he's recording a special album for gamers with Burke, and Snake Eater is part of it. So, yeah, this is certainly disappointing, but um, I believe this. I believe that Donna Burke is not actually re-recording Snake Eater. Frankly, I don't think it would need a re-recording for the remake. I mean, I can understand why they would want to do that, but the song holds up perfectly fine. Like if they wanted to actually use it in a remake. But I really did think, the timing of this is interesting. We've been hearing the rumors of MGS3 remake. Apparently, it's going to be announced this summer, and we're very close to it. So it's understandable, I think, why people would look at this and be like, yo, this is definitely a tease. Turns out it's not. She is not working on it. I mean, if she's to be believed, which I do believe her, it's something separate. But I still think the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is coming. Next up, we're talking a little bit about Hogwarts Legacy. This game has shattered all expectations. This is being reported on by Push Square. They say, considering the gargantuan weight of the IP in question, predicting Hogwarts Legacy would be a massive hit was always going to be a safe bet. As it turns out, the spell slinging action RPG was such a massive success that a developer who worked on it has already used the title's commercial achievements to garnish their LinkedIn profile. According to Aaron Darby, senior brand and marketing manager at Warner Bros. Games, Hogwarts Legacy was a phenomenal success, achieving, quote, 256% to plan sell through at launch and exceeded 12 million units in sales in the first 2 weeks, earning $850 million, end quote. He also mentions Hogwarts Legacy broke the all time Twitch record for concurrent viewers for a single player game with 1.3 million viewers. Now, I definitely had to take time to cover this because that is insane. As it says, everybody was expecting Hogwarts Legacy to do well, but it apparently by far exceeded expectations. It sold 256% better than what was expected. That is truly an incredible feat. Sold over 12 million units. It's breaking records, making a ton of money, obviously. And, I think the reason why I wanted to cover this is two reasons. Number one, I do think PlayStation is partly responsible for this, definitely not entirely. But I do think that the marketing deal that was in place between Sony and Hogwarts Legacy definitely helped this game out. We saw it at the 2020 Future of Gaming PS5 showcase. I think that did a lot for this game. It got its own state of play. But yeah, there was a lot of controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy. A lot of people having some issues with Hogwarts Legacy. And I tried to explain it doesn't matter. You can have your opinions, you can take your stances. This game is going to do extremely well. And honestly, all the people who were being really vocal negatively about this game, whether they know it or not, they probably are responsible for it exceeding expectations. They were just simply bringing more attention to a product that most people, the overwhelming majority of people, are going to look at and say, that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to play that game. I think I'm going to buy it now. So, had to take time to talk about that. Next up, we're talking about Media Molecule. We have some unfortunate news. I think we do have some good news for the studio, which we did cover, but we do have some unfortunate news as well. Apparently, the co founder of Media Molecule has officially left the studio after 17 years. This was reported, well, it was reported by multiple sites, but actually, Media Molecule over on Twitter, they say here a message from our studio director, Sebin Reddy. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but pretty much what this statement says is that he's departing the studio after being there for 17 years, being responsible for the founding of this studio. And what's interesting about the timing of this is that this is being announced shortly after the announcement that Dreams is coming to an end this September. Media Molecule is moving on from Dreams. They did make it clear that they're working on a new IP, and I think that that's the exciting part. Is even though it is disheartening to see, a founder of the studio leaving, especially after what is clearly bad news. Dreams did not work out the way that Sony nor Media Molecule had hoped. It is disappointing news, but it's still good. And I think positive that they're moving on to a new game, a brand new IP. I think the sky is going to be the limit for a studio like Media Molecule. But it seems that maybe, it was a time for change when it comes to leadership. Now, obviously, we won't know if this was just like a personal decision, like if this individual's like, you know what, I think it's time for me to move on, or if this is one of those situations where Sonny was like, we're sorry, but it's time for you to go. And they're basically giving him the opportunity to leave. It's hard to say. Again, I think the timing with the closure of Dreams maybe indicates that he didn't necessarily want to leave, but that's the nature of the business. It's hard to say. So you guys let me know your thoughts about that. We're moving on to the final topic, though, and this is, in my opinion, a very interesting one because we're talking about The Last of Us HBO, specifically season two, and how it seems like there may be a change, a significant change to this show. Now, obviously, there's going to be spoilers here. If you have not played The Last of Us Part Two, you're not going to want to listen to this. But I'm assuming most of you here have played The Last of Us Part Two. There seems to be heavy implication that The Last of Us Part 2, at least season 2, I should say, Joel's fate is going to change. So I have an article here from Comic Book. They say The Last of Us showrunner has plans to expand the HBO series beyond season 2. You haven't seen the last of The Last of Us. HBO's hit live action adaptation of the PlayStation video game is returning for season 2 based on 2020's The Last of Us Part 2, picking up 4 years after the apocalypse. Survivors Joel Miller and Ellie Williams settle in the community of Jackson, Wyoming. Series co-creator and writer Neil Druckmann has already confirmed that there are, quote, no plans to tell any stories beyond adapting the games, end quote. But co-creator and showrunner Craig Mazin says HBO's The Last of Us will not end after the second season. There is quite a bit of story to tell in adapting The Last of Us Part 2, Mazin said during the National Association of Broadcasters show in Las Vegas. Our plan is to do it not just for one more season. We should be around for a while. So we're getting another confirmation, a reaffirmation, I should say, that yeah, Last of Us Part 2 is not going to just be covered in one season, it's going to be multiple seasons. But where things get even more interesting is I have another article here that comes from comingsoon.net. Craig Mazin on The Last of Us Season 2, quote, we do not feel constrained by the source material, end quote. Says here, HBO's The Last of Us mostly kept to the game's plot, but did make some changes here and there. This is most notably seen in the show's third episode, Long Time, and talking about The Last of Us Season 2 and its multi-part approach to the second game. Craig Mazin, co-creator and writer on the series, noted that this mentality still applies. He was asked about The Last of Us Part 2 and what happens to Joel in the acclaimed but controversial sequel, while Bella Ramsey said that she wouldn't know if she would be emotionally ready for it. Craig Mazin said that he and Neil Druckmann had no problem killing characters. However, they would not be constrained by what came before. Quote, this should be fairly obvious to anyone by now, but I don't fear killing characters. But the important thing to note is that neither Neil nor I feel constrained by the source material, end quote. It's worth noting that the actor who plays Joel, Pedro Pascal, also chimed in by saying, quote, it wouldn't make sense to follow the first game so faithfully only to stray severely from the path, end quote. So, yeah, this is interesting because the conversation is beginning to heat up. Are they going to change Joel's fate in The Last of Us Part 2? Well, to be honest, based off of what's being said here, I don't think they're going to change his fate. I think everybody is prepared to see Joel die, but it does seem like there is I'd say at least a 50-50 chance here. I actually think it's more than 50-50, but we'll just keep it at 50-50. I think there's a 50-50 chance that they may really end up either prolonging Joel's involvement in the series, certainly to a greater degree than what we saw in The Last of Us Part 2. I think that a big reason for this is because of Pedro Pascal. He's like, he's the biggest actor in Hollywood right now. People love him, and I just don't see a scenario where they're like, you know what, we're just going to go into season 3 of The Last of Us without Pedro Pascal. I don't see that happening. I could be completely wrong, but this is where you have to wonder, how much control does Neil have? And does Neil want to do that? Does Neil Druckmann see this as an opportunity to potentially make some changes that he otherwise wouldn't have considered making for the game? But, you know, this is different. This is a show. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is that if they do end up changing Joel's fate to any degree in the show, it's going to spark a pretty intense conversation because, as you guys know, when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2, the game, the conversation, it was one side or the other. There was no room for a balanced discussion. It was either you loved it or you hated it, you supported it, you didn't support it. That's quite unfortunate that it had to be reduced down to that. And frankly, I wasn't a big fan of it, but I do think that if they change some things in the show, it's going to spark up that conversation again, and I think there're going to be quite a few arguments. So it should be interesting, but that's pretty much all I have for you guys. That is the news for Monday. Obviously, it's still very early in the week. It's early in the day here, so we'll have to see what else comes out throughout the week. If you enjoyed the video, if you enjoyed the content, again, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe if you're new, and that's it. Now I'm going to head over to the stream here. It's not updated on my end for some reason. Yeah, so I do have a couple things here that you're gonna see. That's like really confusing to me. For some reason on my end, it's still showing the credits roll. Hopefully I didn't just film this whole thing with a credits roll going on. But yeah, I have a couple of things here that I'm gonna bring up now on screen. Okay, so hopefully you guys like it. Let's see. Why isn't that stuff showing up? Hold on. There we go. Okay, yeah, so there's also something else I have to enable here. All right, so yeah, now it's time to get involved with the chat. I have some new things here. So we have a lot of new members here on the channel, okay, which is awesome. If you tuned into the podcast yesterday, you know that we have a lot of new members, and it's really awesome. I really appreciate all the support you guys show the channel. And one of the things I was worried about is, I want to make sure I can get every member in the member scroll. And so I was able to make that happen. I have a membership goal at the bottom here. I currently have it set to 25. I'll just leave it at 25. That's where it started. Yesterday we gained over 100 new members here on the channel, which is insane. So that's something I'm going to continue to push here on the channel. You're saying put it in alphabetical order. That's not going to be able to happen, unfortunately. That would be a ridiculous undertaking. So you just have to take it as it is. If you're somebody who's planning to donate a super chat, who's planning to become a channel member, I worked on some new alerts that I think are pretty cool. I enjoyed I had fun making them, and I'm looking forward to them being utilized and happening. And I think you guys will like it too. So, I'm making some changes here. Obviously, I'm gonna, like I said, keep the video content flowing. And this is technically episode 2 of Hype or Rant with MBG. And the beginning section of the video, as I said, for anybody who's maybe new or this is your first time tuning into the stream, because again, I've only done one episode. You're saying, why is the stream 720p? You know what? I am using a new streaming software. That might be so I'm glad you pointed that out. That might be something I'm going to have to correct after the fact. I'll have to go into the settings. It might be set to 720p. Unfortunately, I don't know why it would be set to that. I'll probably have to correct that and get it to 1080p. So thank you for pointing that out. But yeah, you're saying you like your MBG in HD. Yeah, I mean, my camera does 1080p, so I want to make sure the output is as good as it can be. But yeah, this is episode 2 of Hype or Rant with MBG. And, because this is my first week doing this, I'm going to continue to explain what this is to people who might be new tuning into it. This is just essentially it's a live news show where up front I give you the news. After that, I engage with the chat. We hang out for a little bit, and I basically go through each topic. I cycle through each topic, and I decide whether or not it's either hype or rant. Am I gonna hype it up? Am I hyped about it, or am I gonna rant about it? Does this make me feel like I need to rant about something, or it might fall in the meh category? So yeah, we're gonna start here. The first topic: X Defiant. X Defiant being the new Call of Duty killer, apparently the latest FPS to pop up from Ubisoft of all developers, of all publishers. I gotta say, I wouldn't have expected that. I wouldn't have expected Ubisoft to be the one to come out with a new first person shooter that has the Call of Duty community basically being like, yo, that this might be something. This might be something right now. And obviously it's way too early to determine whether or not like X Defiant's going to be the Call of Duty killer, but it does have talent that worked on the Call of Duty Modern Warfare series. And the number one thing that Call of Duty players are saying about X Defiant, and the reason why it sticks out so much and it stands out so much to them, is because it feels like classic Call of Duty. It brings them back to the Black Ops 1 days, the Modern Warfare 2 days, the Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare days. And you know, it's understandable that this would be attractive to a lot of longtime Call of Duty fans, because if you've played modern day Call of Duty, it's not that it's bad, but it's nothing like the original games. It's a completely different game. It plays differently. It's less arcadey, and that's a big thing here. Is people are really finding with the X Defiant game that this has like that kind of fast paced arcade feel to it that Call of Duty used to have, that it used to be known for, and it's just that's not what it is. And so, you know, the irony, as I mentioned, is this is happening at a time when Microsoft is spending $68 billion for Call of Duty because, they're going to need that for Game Pass. This is coming at a time when Sony is arguing against this, saying that it's impossible to compete with Call of Duty. A lot of PlayStation fans are frustrated to hear Sony say that, because what a lot of PlayStation fans want is Sony, come on, man. We want you to go back to Killzone. Go back to SOCOM, right? Go back to Resistance. Create a new first person shooter IP. You guys have stuff you can leverage that you can utilize, and you're choosing to do nothing with it while simultaneously saying we can't compete. Sony does have things in the works. That's what they won't tell you. But it's out there publicly. They have a partnership, an exclusive game agreement with two veteran studios that are currently working on first person shooters that are going to be PS5 exclusive. So they are still working on stuff. But yeah, when it comes to X Defiant, hype or rant, I gotta say, I'm feeling a little bit hype about this. I would have never thought. I see a lot of people are critical about the name, like X Defiant, not a very good name. I agree with that. X Defiant does not look. I mean, it looks fine, like the aesthetic. It's not the best. But I just like what I'm seeing. I did watch some gameplay of X Defiant, and as somebody who really enjoys classic Call of Duty, I like that arcade feel. That's what attracted me to Call of Duty in the first place. It does, yeah, the game does look really fun. It looks promising. I haven't played it yet, but yeah, I gotta say, I'm feeling kind of hyped for it. I'm feeling a little bit hyped for it, hype enough to where I think I'm definitely going to give it a shot. You're saying MBG, do you have a script for the show? No, I do not. The first 15 to 20 minutes you hear is just me, you know, cycling through the news without a script. I'm sure you can notice some imperfections there. I don't know that I would do very well with a script, to be completely honest. I've tried scripting in the past and it just doesn't work out. I operate better just by, you know, just you know, being free flow and just kind of letting it go. So yeah, it's in closed beta right now. So X Defiant, I'm gonna say hype. I'm gonna say hype for now. We'll see where it goes. The next topic in line that we discussed, we talked about Metal Gear Solid 3, the remake, and how Donna Burke, the singer who did the Snake Eater, uh, the singer who did the Snake Eater song, the pretty much just the theme of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. She came out, she's hyping it up. She's like, "Yo, I'm re-recording Snake Eater." And now she's coming out and she's saying, "Well, yeah, I'm not actually working with Konami. I'm not actually working on a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. Sorry to get everybody's hopes up. I'm actually just working on a new version of it for an upcoming album for somebody." And I mean, look, this is kind of weird because it's obvious that the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is real. Like it's out, like there's more than enough evidence. It's real. And yeah, some people think that she's now saying this because she brought a lot of attention to it. She's lying. She has to cover it up. Now, that could be a possibility. There's no doubt about that. But I'll tell you this, like, the Metal Gear remake is real. It's a real thing. Again, it's very likely going to be announced in the coming months. And I do want to say though, just because I believe wholeheartedly that it's a real thing, that doesn't mean that I assume that she's not telling the truth, because she could, like, these two things could be separate, and I think that's important to understand. These two things could be separate. She could be re-recording this for a separate album with another project for somebody else, and Konami is working on a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. I mean, I will say the the rendition of the song Snake Eater in the original game, it doesn't need a touch up. It doesn't need to be re-recorded, you know? Like, it's fine if that's what they want to do. But that to me was a little bit strange about her saying it, because I'm like, well, if Konami is doing a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, the song is fine. You know, like the song holds up. They could just reuse it. It sounds great. Love that theme for the game, by the way. So yeah, the ongoing saga of rumors regarding Metal Gear Solid remake. I know a lot of people feel kind of burned. I know a lot of people feel like it's never going to happen, and I know a lot of people don't want to get their hopes up. But I'm here to tell you, it's happening. It's real, and we just got to be patient. It's gonna be announced, and I think people are going to be very excited when it is finally announced. So even though with this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake rumor, you would think it would be a meh or a rant, no, it's still hype. It's still hype, people. Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, Metal Gear. It's hype. It's still hype. PlayStation exclusive, very good chance of that. Yes, there's a very good chance that the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake will be a PlayStation 5 console exclusive. I have no doubt. Look, if Sony is willing to strike a deal for Silent Hill 2 remake, there's no way, in my opinion, they don't strike a deal for Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, because Metal Gear Solid is even more synonymous with PlayStation. Silent Hill has always been pretty synonymous with PlayStation, but Metal Gear Solid is really that series. Like, a lot of people view Metal Gear Solid as a PlayStation series because a lot of those games launched originally on PlayStation or they're exclusive to PlayStation. Metal Gear Solid 4 is still exclusive to the PS3, which is crazy to think. So yeah, I think there's a really good chance that Metal Gear Solid 3 remake is also a PS5 exclusive. Now, the next topic after that, Hogwarts Legacy, absolutely crushing expectations. You love to see it. You love to see it, man. I mean, you guys were here. You guys saw the amount of drama. The amount of drama that we've seen with Hogwarts Legacy, people crying about it, people getting up in arms about Hogwarts Legacy. We need to boycott it. This game should be canceled, blah, blah, blah. You know? And myself and other, I mean, we saw streamers getting bullied. We saw streamers getting bullied, right? Because, oh, we're gonna stream this, and then my audience is gonna bully me, telling me I shouldn't be playing this. It's just like, to the point where, like, one of the it was that who was that girl? I think it's Girlfriend Reviews. She's a pretty popular YouTuber. Um, you know, she got bullied for streaming this game. You know, like, her audience made her cry. It's like, you guys are weird. Like, these people are so weird. You know, and I just don't see why people have to turn everything into something it just simply doesn't have to be. Hogwarts Legacy was very obviously, it is very obviously a high quality single player video game based in a universe that people enjoy. There's nothing wrong with people saying, I want to enjoy this game. I want to play this game. But people, they have to try to turn it into something else. They have to try to turn it into something it's not. And they go on their crusades. And, I got to say, it's just, you love to see it, man. You love to see it backfire to a degree in which it's like, I hope you guys are happy because you like the community that was so against this game, the community that has been fighting against this game, like they are partially responsible for this game's success. So it's like you played yourself. You really played yourself here. You would have done more damage by not bringing attention to it. Um, but that's what it is. That's what it is, man. Hogwarts Legacy is breaking records. It completely surpassed it. Again, the statistic that they throw up there is Hogwarts Legacy sold 256% more than what was expected. 256% more. That's wild. So a mega hit. That Hogwarts Legacy is pretty much doing Elden Ring numbers here. It's doing just as well as Elden Ring, if not better. So there you go. For all the people who were so outraged, for all the people who were hoping to see it fail, unfortunately for them, the exact opposite happened. It is a monumental success. So, yeah, take that as you will. Take it for what you will. What I will say is I've been, Hogwarts Legacy came out a little while ago, so it's we're a little bit more removed from now. But from what I could tell, people generally are enjoying it. They were enjoying it. It's a good game. So there you go. That's the Hogwarts Legacy topic. Now the next topic, Media Molecule. This is some unfortunate news. And Kipford, really quick before I dive into this, I'm sorry, buddy. I just realized I missed your member chat. Your member for 25 months. You're saying just 2 days left. I put over 500 hours into Horizon Forbidden West. I'm so ready to get back into it. So psyched. Hope you and your family are doing great. Well, thank you, man. We are doing well, and that's crazy. That's crazy, Kipford. Yeah, I remember you mentioning previously how many hours you put into Horizon. 500 hours into Horizon Forbidden West. That's a lot of time, dude. That's dedication. So yeah, I could tell you are absolutely stoked for the Burning Shores DLC. So I hope it lives up to your expectations, man. I hope it's everything and then some. So thank you for that, bud. Yeah, 500 hours. That's crazy. But we got to talk about Media Molecule. I did see somebody in the chat earlier asking, what's the bad news? What's the bad news for PlayStation Studios? Well, the bad news is that Media Molecule has lost a founder. Okay, I'm telling you, Media Molecule is not in great shape, unfortunately. And this is where you see that we talk here on the channel about how great PlayStation Studios is. Also, I forgot to mention when it comes to Hogwarts Legacy, hype or rant, hype. Obviously, it's nothing to rant about there. I'm hyped to see Hogwarts Legacy doing well. I knew it was going to do well. It's a good game. It deserves to be rewarded for being a good, competent video game. But yeah, we talk about PlayStation Studios. We talk all the time. I talk all the time about how impressed I am with PlayStation Studios. How they're just so consistent, right? They're just so consistent with their output, with their quality. And Media Molecule is, I think, a beloved PlayStation studio. I think a lot of people, a lot of people fell in love with Media Molecule for Little Big Planet. In fact, a lot of people want to see Media Molecule go back to Little Big Planet. And, they did a really good job with the Little Big Planet games. And then in the PS4 generation, things kind of took a turn, right? They decided to go all in with Dreams. Dreams took a long time to develop, and it came out in 2019. And it just, I think there's a lot of potential with a product like Dreams, and for people who really got into Dreams, you can see like there's something special there, right? Like people can do some crazy things in Dreams. The community, I feel bad for the community that's still there because they're basically having the rug pulled out from under them. It's 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 a problem. It's a problem for the community that the game is just not latching on the way it should, the way people were hoping it would. Um, so I'm trying to see here. Uh, guys, did that so this is my first time trying to do this. I got a super chat from Kendall Fire 22. There was supposed to be an there we go. Okay. It was a little bit delayed. It's my first time doing it. So I need to know, did you hear the codec? Did it go through? Did it happen? I've been waiting to see this. I gotta see the response from chat here. It did? Okay. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I was really looking forward to that happening. So shout out to Kendall Fire 22, man. You're the first one to have a new notification. I mean, just a heads up, if somebody wants to become a member, there's a notification. It's different. You'll probably recognize it, but if somebody wants to, dive in, become a channel member, I have a notification for that as well. So if you want to see what that is, because I want to see that one too. You thought it was your phone ringing? No, no, we got the codec there. Yeah, me and my wife were working on this yesterday, and we were having a good time coming up with that. So there you go. That's the I hope you guys like that, because I've been doing streaming for a long time here on YouTube, and I never incorporated something like this. So hopefully it adds something to it. There we go. Hicksock coming in with one too. But Kendall Fire 22, you're saying Joseph Staten has joined Netflix and is directing a new IP multi-platform video game. Really? I guess that must have just come out. That must have just come out, because the last thing I saw about Joseph Staten is that he left Microsoft. He left 343. But that's interesting. Man, I wonder if Netflix poached him, It seems like they did. They hunted him. They got him. But that sounds like a pretty good gig, right? If you're Joseph Staten, Netflix, get a lot of backing, obviously, get a lot of money, make a new IP. It's going to be multi-platform. I like that. I like that. Let's see Joseph Staten, he's clearly a talented developer. There's a reason why they wanted to come back, and they wanted him to come back. Microsoft was like, please, you need to come back. You need to save Halo. You need to help us out. You're saying you didn't get the codec. What is the threat? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure that out too. You're saying, what's the threshold? Oh, there we go. You know what? It seems like it's on a bit of a delay. I'll have to see why that is. I don't know if that's like something, it's just the way it is. It's delayed. Maybe I can mess with the settings. But yeah, I was wondering too. I was like, it's taking a bit long here. But yeah, don't worry. No matter what, it'll clearly pop up no matter what, which is good. So again, it's my first time doing it, so I'm over here waiting for something to go wrong. And Kendall Fire saying it's breaking news for you. Just announced MBG. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, is it an exclusive Netflix IP? Well, that's interesting. So yeah, that's what I would wonder, is like, is this going to be a game that's exclusive to Netflix, or is it going to actually be a multi-plat? Maybe I'll look into that in a little bit. But yeah, thank you for that, Kendall Fire. We have Hickzock saying snake. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what else I can incorporate in the future. There's a bunch of like Metal Gear sound bites I would like to do. But yeah, we'll stick with the codec for super chats for now. But yeah, when it comes to Media Molecule, man, it's they're struggling. They have been struggling, clearly, because Dreams did not take off in the way that Media Molecule needed it to. I think Sony gave it more than enough time. I see Free asking in the chat, so is this PlayStation mismanagement? Yeah, it is. Yeah, the PlayStation has mismanaged Media Molecule to a degree here, because they've went. I don't know. What has it been, like a decade? And the only game that Media Molecules produced is Dreams. And again, it's no offense to Dreams. It's just sad to see that, like, they spent so much time on this single game. A lot of resources went into it, and basically what you end up getting out of it is it didn't take off. It didn't latch on people. And I think the worst part about it is Dreams was pretty much abandoned. Like, to me, that's the worst part about it, is the fact that it didn't get a proper PS5 version. They didn't bring it to PC. They just seemingly, I don't know if it was Sony, I don't know if it was Media Molecule, but they just decided to just leave it as is, and they seem to have let it go for too long because I'll be honest, like, the fact that Media Molecule is just now in 20 in the you know, it's not the middle of 2023 yet, but, April of 2023, they're just now deciding, "You know what? We're gonna start work on a new game." I mean, I wonder how long I wonder if, like, work on this new game just began or if they have already been working on it for some time now. It's hard to say. I don't know. I don't think we can know, but it's just crazy to me that, Dreams, a lot of people were saying even shortly after it came out, like, this isn't gonna do it. And you think about the potential that a studio like Media Molecule has. Like, they clearly know how to make good video games, and that's what they should be doing. And that's why I think there is ultimately a positive. So it is unfortunate to see one of the founders of Media Molecule depart. The timing is not great. Obviously, it's after the announcement that Dreams is coming to an end. But yeah, this is where you can sometimes see that PlayStation is not immune to these types of issues. PlayStation is not perfect. I've said this many times. Like, I give Sony a ton of credit because I'll just say it. Like, I genuinely feel that PlayStation Studios are the best gaming studios in the world. They do it better than anybody else. They do it more consistently than anybody else, but that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be mistakes. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be those hiccups where there is some mismanagement. There is some problems. And I guess the hope now is that this is where we can see it kind of corrected. They gave Dreams a chance. Dreams was clearly a passion project for Media Molecule. Sony gave it, I think, more than enough time to try to catch on. I just don't know that they gave it enough support. But it's coming to an end, and I think the best way forward now is to task don't shut down Media Molecule. Obviously, I think that's something we should also acknowledge is it's good that Media Molecule is not being shut down because a lot of studios in their position probably would be shut down. But I think that Sony is aware that Dreams was something different, very experimental, didn't work out. And most importantly, Media Molecule has proven they know how to make good video games. They're responsible for Little Big Planet, right? Like, that's one of Sony's iconic games. That's one of the mascots, and it still is a mascot for them. So the good news from all of this is that now Media Molecule's finally gonna make a new game. They're gonna make a new game, and they did say it's not gonna be Dreams 2. It's gonna be a new game. And the only thing we don't know if it's going to be a new IP or not. It could be a new Little Big Planet game. I think it's more likely it's going to be a new IP though. I think that's the way forward for a studio like Media Molecule. I think that that's where they can just get creative, get excited for something brand new, do something that you never did before. And yeah, I'm excited. I gotta say I am excited for them because it's been a long time. I mean, ever since I started covering PlayStation heavily here on the channel, the only thing that we've talked about for Media Molecule this entire time is Dreams. And I love Dreams. And I want to get, dude, really quick though, I gotta say, like, salute to Dreams, man. Truly. Like, truly a salute to Dreams. It's a sad day to see that it has to be laid to rest and the community is, pretty much being abandoned, right? But I gotta give Dreams a lot of credit. It's a game that had a lot of ambition. It's a project that, yeah, the concept was just something that is not necessarily the most original because we've seen it many times, like make your own game, but the tool set that was offered in Dreams, like the things that people could actually end up creating, absolutely insane. Like, I will always remember the times when I came across these things in Dreams, whether it was through videos on Twitter or actually playing Dreams the few times I did, and seeing, and seeing like what they're coming up with. It's like, that's crazy. And so the potential was there, but it just, I don't know. I don't know if it was the timing, the mismanagement, that maybe the fact that the tool sets are so complex and not easy to really learn necessarily. Yeah, dude, people were creating full blown remakes in Dreams. So big salute to Dreams. Salute to Sony for giving it a fair chance. Salute to Media Molecule for giving it their best effort, and salute to the community, man, for supporting it and making it what it was. But we'll see what the future of Media Molecule brings. So when it comes to hype rant, or meh. Um, for this, I'm gonna have to say it falls in the category of meh because I don't feel the need to rant about the way Sony handled Media Molecule. I don't feel the need to rant about Dreams because I think everybody's understanding that Dreams was an attempt at something different, an attempt at something that could maybe take off. But I can't say I'm super hype either because it's been a long time since we've seen a new game from Media Molecule. And even though I think that they still have a lot of talent and they have a lot of potential, obviously, to make another great game, we got to see it. I do think at this point in time, Media Molecule absolutely has something to prove. So I'll give it a meh. I'll give it a meh for now. Let me see. In the final topic here, the final topic talks about The Last of Us and Joel's fate and how they might change it. They might decide maybe our boy Joel is not going to have to take a golf club to the head in episode 2 of season 2. Now, I'll tell you right now, Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, the showrunners of The Last of Us HBO, they are refusing to let us know what exactly they're going to do. They're saying, and I just want to make it known that they continue to make it clear and tell people that they're not going to they're not going to feel like they have to stick to the source material exactly. They are willing to deviate. They're willing to change things. And you're saying Druckmann's ego won't let it happen? I'll tell you right now, man. I don't know that this is fully in Neil Druckmann's hands, and I think that that's the ironic part here. Is I mean Neil Druckmann is obviously a big reason why the first season of The Last of Us, he's a big reason why it was as true to the source material. But here's the reality, okay, when it comes to The Last of Us. This is the reality. Um, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm delusional, but I think the reality is The Last of Us 1 as a game was not controversial. It was not it did not spark anywhere near the same type of conversation that a game like The Last of Us Part 2 did, for better or for worse. It didn't. The only conversation surrounding The Last of Us 1 was simply, this is incredible. This is an amazing game. We've never seen anything like it, and it's practically a perfect game. That was the conversation about The Last of Us 1. Now, a lot of people argue that maybe we shouldn't get a Last of Us 2 because that's a high bar to clear. Like, that's really difficult, right? It's really difficult to make a game that many people are saying this is the perfect game with the perfect ending, right? Masterpiece. A lot of people understand that in order to to achieve something even more than that, the chances are very, very low. So a lot of people felt like a sequel shouldn't even happen. But when the sequel did happen, it did something pretty crazy that no one, at least I didn't think they would do it in that way, right? Like, I think everybody expected that The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be a wild ride. It's going to be insane. It's going to be gut wrenching. It's going to be a lot of things, but I don't think that people were prepared for, like, oh, that's what they're going to do. Like, that's crazy. That seems like, why, it seems unlikely that a studio would ever choose to do that the way that they did. Um, and I remember when The Last of Us Part 2 came out, a lot of like prominent, well-respected reviewers, a lot of them pretty much were like, this isn't very good. Like, this isn't a masterpiece. And I'm talking like reviewers on YouTube, reviewers that are not necessarily part of Metacritic. I mean, the game got rave review scores, obviously, but there were a lot of people who were considered some of the most respected reviewers in the industry that were like, this isn't good. Like, this has some issues. And one of the biggest problems that people had, I know everybody focuses on Joel and the fact that he died the way he did, but putting that aside, I think a lot of people feel like The Last of Us Part 2, in terms of its story, it was kind of messy. It didn't flow as well. It wasn't as cohesive. It was in some ways just a little bit messy. Certainly a lot messier than the first game. And you know, I I gotta say, like, I am very interested to see what they do story wise with season two, because I'm telling you, if they change Joel's death in any way, like if they change the way it happens, if they change the build up to like any changes they make are going to be scrutinized a lot. Like people are going to be laser focused on it because there's basically this giant argument that occurred with The Last of Us Part 2 and it still occurs today. But the it's a game that basically forces you to pick sides. Okay? And it does, like, you don't have to pick sides, of course. But so that's interesting. Apparently with the member chats, that's cool. So it will so yeah, you got the pop-up for the membership. But in this case it was for Dark Demon Media for a member chat. Dark Demon Media member for 2 months are saying, "Hey MBG, yesterday I was gifted a membership and was completely unaware until today. Wow, thanks to whoever sent it." Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, a lot of people were gifted memberships yesterday. So yeah, you might want to check to see if you happen to be gifted. I see some people saying that no, that's not true. You didn't have to pick sides. No, look. You can say what you want, man, but the art there was some insane back and forth arguments. Like the entire conversation around The Last of Us 2 was an argument as to like, was this a good game? Was this a good story? Was this the right thing to do? And the answers that people would give you are either yes or no. And here's the thing: like people who say that, oh yeah, it was a masterpiece and a good game. I really enjoyed it. I liked it. You are picking a side, and it's not your fault. Maybe you are unaware, but no, dude, this. If you don't believe me, go look at the way Neil Druckmann teases the so-called haters, right? Like go if you go look at the tweets that Neil Druckmann put out at that time and the way he responded, oh, absolutely, you're picking a side. You're picking a side. Because that was the point. That was the point. The point of The Last of Us Part 2 was to create a divide, and it worked very well. To where Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog, they were well aware we're gonna piss people off. We're gonna make some people upset, and we're gonna stir the pot in a really significant way in the gaming industry. And that absolutely is what occurred. So they achieved what they set out to do. Um, but I think that the real problem with The Last of Us Part 2, and this is why, to be honest, like there's a good chance I may just dip out of season 2. Um, just simply, I don't know. I'll have to see. I really enjoyed season 1. I thought it was phenomenal. I may dip out of season 2. Yeah, I see that Dark Demon Meteor saying the video quality is only at 720p. It's not going to stay that way. That's actually my fault. I'm using a new streaming software and I forgot to update the settings. So this should hopefully be the only stream that is at 720p. Um, but the thing about season 2 of The Last of Us is one of the reasons why I may end up just dipping out of it is because I don't know that I want to partake in that conversation again, because it was like, dude, I'll tell you right now, the amount of people that if I say, "Oh, I didn't enjoy The Last of Us Part 2 because I didn't like Abby's character and I didn't like her storyline and I felt like a lot of it was forced." Dude, there are Last of Us fans that are like, "No, you're wrong. You can't say that. It's a masterpiece and that's that." Like anybody who doesn't see it as a masterpiece is wrong. And this is just where it's like there's no room for a middle ground nuanced conversation with this game. And I think that if they choose to do the exact same thing with the series, with season 2 and 3 that they did with the game, the exact same thing is going to happen. The reason why I love The Last of Us Part 1 and the conversation around it is because people didn't feel that way necessarily. Like people weren't like fighting each other, being like, "No, I'm right." And everybody who thinks that Joel did the right thing is right. The conversation wasn't like that. The conversation surrounding The Last of Us Part 2 has always been unbelievably toxic. And people, people have blamed me in the past because I made a video basically explaining how I just wasn't thrilled with what they did with the characters and the direction they tried to go in, and how I honestly thought it was pretty shitty. Like I really thought that the direction that they went in with the characters, Joel and Ellie, was shitty, and I didn't enjoy it. You know, it's just a game that made me feel pretty bad overall. And people took stuff like that and they say, "Oh, you're just butthurt because they killed Joel." It's like, like, yes, that's it. I made a 20-minute video where it can just simply be surmised that I'm butthurt that they killed Joel, even though I've talked. You know what I mean? It's like, and it goes the other way as well. It goes the other way as well, where it's like, there are people who are like, oh, um, Neil Cuckman and everything. It's like you're not helping, like by making fun of Neil Druckmann by calling him Neil Cuckman and just constantly screaming woke, woke, woke. It's like I get it, but you're not helping. Like that, you're not helping facilitate a decent conversation surrounding this game. And that's the problem. Is it I hate to say this, but it's true. On the internet, The Last of Us 2 became a political conversation. That's what happened. On the internet, The Last of Us Part 2, and I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know if that's what I don't know if that's Neil Druckmann's fault. I don't know if that's Naughty Dog's fault. I don't know if that's just the audience's fault. I don't know if that's one group's fault. I have no idea. And at this point, it feels like it's impossible to identify and figure out. But I will never forget. I'm telling you, man. Like I was there as the conversation was happening with The Last of Us, when the leak came out and everything, and then the game came out. And it was crazy, dude. Like it was wild. Where my gut reaction, my initial gut reaction to The Last of Us Part 2 was, I don't like what they did with the story. Because I guess in my mind, I had a certain expectation, and they definitely subverted my expectations for sure. But that was my gut instinct. I didn't, and I remember learning about the character Abby, and I remember through the leak, they're like, oh, so that this character Abby is going to kill Joel in the beginning of the game, and halfway through the game, you're going to play as her, and you're going to play the rest of the game as her, and the goal of the game is to try to get you to understand her perspective. And I'm just like, that sucks. like that does not sound like a game I want to play. Because that, I mean, I guess, a lot of people make the argument, and I think it's a fair argument. I think it's a fair argument. A lot of people make the argument that, like, well, that's what makes the world of The Last of Us, is that type of, like, no one's innocent. People can't just get away with things. Joel's a bad guy. He had it coming to him, and you gotta, like, another survivor like Abby and her group. You got to see it from their perspective. And I'm like, I like that. That's the thing about it, is like, I guess the whole argument that I've tried to make this entire time about The Last of Us Part 2 is, I think it just comes down to, I understand exactly what Naughty Dog and Neil Druckmann were trying to achieve, and I think they achieved it. I do. I think it was, again, a little bit messy. My biggest complaint about The Last of Us Part 2 from playing it was, I thought the game was too long. I don't know if many people agree with me on that, but I really did feel like the game's a bit too long here. But my biggest problem wasn't what they were trying to do. And like, my biggest argument was never, well, they're doing a terrible job. Like my whole argument was like, I just don't think this is good. Like, you know what I mean? I don't think this is good. And you know what the strangest thing to me is? You're saying I seriously need to change that sound? Why? I think it's good. What's wrong with it? The reason why I don't think it's good is simply because I did not like Abby as a character. It had nothing to do with her wanting revenge. It had nothing to do with her killing Joel. I played through that game and I just thought, dude, this is a deadpan character. Like, this is a boring, uninteresting character. And to be honest, Joel as a character would have been kind of boring without Ellie. I think Lev was a more interesting character than Abby, but it wasn't enough. Like, I just didn't like. I did the thing that really rubbed me the wrong way about The Last of Us Part Two is it was so obvious where it's like where they're trying to create a duality. You have Joel and Ellie. These are the characters you know. These are the characters you love. These are the characters you fell in love with in the first game. And I appreciate that they're like, let's create a duality with that, where we're gonna have two new characters, same type of bond, right? Abby is taking the place of Joel. Lev is taking the place of Ellie. And I'm just like, these characters, like you wrote worse characters. That's what bothered me is you wrote worse characters and you thought that these are going to be better characters. We're going to get people to love these characters more. I think Lev, as I said, anybody who's a fan of Lev's character, I think Lev's character was written better. I think Lev's character just had more character in general, right? But I am like I see people on the internet that are like, I'm a huge fan of Abby, and I'm like, I don't get it. You're saying the relationship between Abby and Owen really touched me? Well, okay, I guess. But even then, I'm just like, it had its moments. Like it wasn't all bad. I don't want to make it sound like there was no interesting moment with Abby's character. That's not true. I just think it was. You know what? You know where I think the problem was? I'll be honest with you. I think the problem with Abby's character, it's not even it's not the relationships that she had cuz I remember when I was playing I'm like I'm trying to get in like I get what they're trying to do here. You know what I mean? Like they want me to get involved. They want me to feel like I'm getting involved and I'm getting to know this character Abby and her group and the people that she's close to. I totally understand that. And I think where the problem comes in is that when Neil Druckmann was writing Abby's character, they're like, we have to make a character that's gonna bother people. Like that they know. Like we have to give her qualities that we know are gonna bother people rather than focusing on like, let's just make a good character. You're saying the MGS notification is a little bit loud. I wonder if I could you could probably lower it. Let me see. Sound volume. Okay, I'm gonna put it down a little bit. I'm gonna put it down to 30. Okay, I'm gonna put the super chat and the membership sound down to 30. So you guys let me know if that's better. If it's too low now, let me know. But this is where it's like the reason why I'm gonna be interested in the show in season 2 is because it's like I look at the show as an opportunity. Like, look, I'll be honest, Neil. I'll be honest, Neil Druckmann. Like, you didn't sell me on the character of Abby, in The Last of Us Part Two. Like, I honestly walked away from that game thinking I cannot stand this character. Like, I'm like I was happy to see that she got what was coming to her, you know, for her own actions at the end, you know, by Ellie. And I was never like, I remember the conversation. There was a lot of people that were like, I can't believe they didn't let Ellie kill Abby. And I'm like, dude, that's not what I was hung up on. I can understand why some people were like, I can't believe she didn't kill her. What I was just hung up on is like, dude, they made me play this game, like more than half of this game as this character. And they tried so hard to get me to like this character, to sympathize and empathize with this character. And all I could end up feeling at the end of it was like, God damn, I hope I never have to play as this character again. Like, if I never see Abby in a future game again, it'll be too soon. And maybe that's, you know, maybe that's a bit brutal, but that's how I felt about The Last of Us Part 2, man. And I'll be honest, like the reality is I think a lot of people latched on to Abby's character, and you see a lot of people that are like, Abby's the best. I'm an Abby stan. I love Abby. It's because they don't love Abby as a character. They love how much Abby pisses people like me and others off. That's what they love about Abby. They don't love her as a character. She's a deadpan character with minimal personality. They love the fact that she pisses people like me and others off. And that's what they love about her. And I know that that might be a tough pill for some people to swallow. Yep, they don't love her for they don't love Abby as a character. They love what she represents. And that is why I hated, frankly, The Last of Us Part 2, because I could see that clear as day. I knew what Neil Druckmann was trying to do. I think again he did it absolutely successfully. And I think it sucked because it's just like, dude, Neil Druckmann's goal with The Last of Us Part 2 was to get people to basically say, you know what? I the idea of going into The Last of Us Part 2, it was obvious that people are going to love playing as Ellie and Joel again. They're going to be so excited. They love these characters. They're going and I got to admit, yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I was like, dude, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to play this again, to go on another journey with Joel and Ellie. That's what I thought was going to happen. And except this time I'm taking control of Ellie. And it just seems like from the start, what Neil Druckmann and the team decided is, okay, so what we want to do is we want to turn that excitement into just pain and suffering and almost hatred. Like the things that they had Ellie do, it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, it went from a story about uh two broken characters who found something in each other and survived together, right? And a lie is told, and you're left to think, well, was that the right thing to do? I don't know. It went from that to, well, one of these characters is going to pay for what they did, and the other character is going to do some fucking unspeakable acts that are going to make you practically want to see her get what's coming to her. You see what I'm saying? Like, do you see how I'm saying it's just, it ultimately just makes me resent the fact that they even decided to make a second game, because it's like, you just ruined these characters. I'm sorry. I do think that ultimately Joel's character actually wasn't ruined to a degree. It depends. Like, if you play the end of The Last of Us Part 2, Joel tells Ellie, like, if I could do it all again, I would. Like, I would do it the exact same way. And so we did get a clear-cut answer, that Joel clearly believed, like, I did the right thing. I know I did, in his eyes. And anybody who saw it that way, you got confirmation that, yeah, that's exactly how he felt. He has no regrets, no remorse for doing that. And anybody who viewed Joel as a bad guy in that moment pretty much was like, well, I guess he is a bad guy then. I don't know. I understand, like, Abby's whole motivation was because Joel killed her father and whatnot, and they add more to that by being like, and they were gonna have the cure and the whole thing. And I totally understand how Joel, in the eyes of a character like Abby, is the super villain. I get that. Like, I completely understand that, but I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see how they handle the second season of The Last of Us HBO. All I will say is that I wouldn't be shocked. I'm telling you, like, I would not be shocked if they make some changes, because the conversation around The Last of Us Part 2 was utterly toxic. And I know that there are a lot of people who think that The Last of Us Part 2 was like this ultra mega successful game. It did really well. Yes, it sold more than 10 copies. It took about 2 years. Okay? I just want people to know that, like, The Last of Us Part 2 sold 10 million copies in 2 years. God of War Ragnarok sold 11 million copies in 3 months. Now, what's the difference between those two games? I'll tell you what the difference is. One of those games had a story that everybody loved. The other had a story that was insanely divisive and pretty much caused infighting. Okay? So, right now, PlayStation, Sony PlayStation, and HBO executives, they're looking at each other and be like, yo, this is a mega hit show we got our hands in. Who's our boy? I'll tell you right now, I feel sorry for whoever gets casted as Abby. Because, dude, whoever gets casted as Abby, they are going, like, they have a tidal wave of hate that is going to come their way. Because I'll tell you one thing, Pedro Pascal isn't Joel. And what I mean by that is Joel, the video game character, is Joel. Pedro Pascal is a beloved icon and an actor at this point in time. If you think people were upset to see Joel die, a made-up video game character that's not a real person, see him die virtually in a game, oh, I can only imagine how people are going to react when they see their boy, Pedro Pascal. I can only imagine how they're going to feel when Pedro Pascal's the one underneath the golf club at that point. So I feel sorry for whoever's playing Abby, truly, if they decide not to change it. Tom Holland is going to play as Abby. No, I think they should get The Rock. The Rock should play Abby. But this is where I'm telling you, man, and I'm going to read these super chats. I just want to say that this is why I think you're saying maybe if we knew Abby first. Yeah, and you're right. Maybe that could be what they choose to change. We're going to give you more time with Abby leading up to that moment. We're going to give you more time with her father. We're going to give you more time with her and all her people. That could work. That absolutely could work. And they could do that. And that would actually be smart, I think. But they're going to lose 80% of their viewership. Dude, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be bad. Like, I'm just going to say it. I would be fucking shocked if they don't change The Last of Us Season 2, Part 2, quite significantly. I would be shocked. Because, dude, I'm telling you, this show is a mega hit. This show is a mega hit for PlayStation and HBO. And you better believe Sony is wondering why. Sony, I know they haven't said anything about it, but trust me. If you know Sony, you know they're wondering why. Why did The Last of Us Part 2 take 2 years to sell 10 million? 2 years. Dude, that game should have done a lot more than 10 million in 2 years. I don't know that it should have done 20 million, but for context, again, Ghost of Tsushima also sold 10 million in that same time. A brand new IP. Not from Naughty Dog, not The Last of Us. So I don't think anybody at Sony is going to turn to Neil Druckmann and say, we think you kind of fucked it up, dude. I don't think anybody's going to turn to Neil Druckmann and say, you ruined it. You screwed up. 10 million's still good, right? It was the talk of the town. You know, it definitely caught a lot of attention. That's for sure. I don't think anybody's going to turn to Neil Druckmann necessarily and say, yeah, you kind of messed it up. No, they're not going to do that. But what I think is going to happen is that I think the showrunners, right? I think like the writers, because the thing about the show that's different from the games is that like a lot more people are involved and a lot more of these people have a much bigger say in what's going to happen. I think they're going to basically just say, so Neil, we have an idea. And I'm going to be curious. Like, I think the idea is basically going to be a bit of not a rewrite. Like, I think they're going to stick mostly to the story, but I think they're going to make significant changes that, like, the way things were. I want people to understand in The Last of Us Part 2, and I'm sure you do understand, The Last of Us Part 2 was constructed the way it was purposely. Okay, there's a reason why you start out the game watching Joel get his head bashed in. There's a reason why you start the game that way. Okay, you don't start the game as Abby. You don't start the game as getting all this context with Abby and seeing everything that's leading up to that moment, you don't. And there is a reason for that. It's to fucking enrage you and shock you or devastate you, whatever it is. And it's effective. But there's a trade-off for that, dude. The trade-off is do you know what you just did to a large part of the audience that just played the whole first game as this character? Do you know what you just did? And you better believe Neil Druckmann's like, oh, I know what I did. He knows exactly what he did. But I'm just saying, like, this is different, man. I would not be surprised if, because this show is so successful and there is a lot more opportunity to, like, you can add more context now. You can do more now. You can change things now. And people will be okay with it. I think they're going to do that. I think they're trying to prepare people for it. Like, I think that's what they're trying to say. Now, Pedro Pascal, I think his comment is interesting. Now, it's worth noting Pedro Pascal has no creative input, nor does Bella Ramsey. That's important to understand. Like, people are asking the actors of The Last of Us, like, how do you feel? Well, they're going to be honest in how they feel, but that has zero impact on what's going to actually happen. So Pedro Pascal seems to be of the mindset that, well, they didn't deviate from the first game very much. So he doesn't see a reason why they would deviate from the second game. And I think that's kind of funny because this is coming from somebody who hasn't played it, Like, dude, Pedro, sit down, play both of these games back to back. I think you might get a better understanding of why they might decide to deviate a little bit. So I take what he's saying with a grain of salt because, he's the actor, he's the talent. He hasn't played the games, and I'm sure he's aware. Like, maybe, I don't know, he probably looked it up. If I was Pedro Pascal, I'd want to look up, like, yo, what's everybody, you see people saying, like, no, don't shoot that doctor, don't shoot that doctor. And I'm sure if you're Pedro Pascal, you're playing Joe, you're like, why are people saying that? He's a dead man walking. Yeah, let me see here. So we got a couple super chats here. I appreciate it, guys. Swaggy G, you're saying, you think we will finally get Marvel Spider-Man 2 stuff anytime between May or June? The hype for this game is real, and it will be the PS5 at its best. Absolutely, man. At the very least, listen, I'm confident. I'm very confident that we are going to get a PlayStation Showcase in the next 5 to 6 weeks. Okay? I'm very confident in that. Or wait, no, let me see. Yeah, 6 to 7 weeks. In the next 6 to 7 weeks, I'm extremely confident we're going to get a PlayStation Showcase. There's no chance in hell that Sony does a showcase in the coming weeks and does not show a new trailer for Spider-Man. Okay? Yeah, we're going to see Spider-Man at the PlayStation Showcase. The time has come. You know it. I know it. Insomniac knows it. Sony knows it. Okay? We all know it. So thank you for that, Swaggy G. Josh, you're saying forced perspective is the brilliance of the second game. It's also a reminder that the world these characters live in is an unfair place. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I do think there are some very good qualities of The Last of Us Part 2. I admit, like, I've thought about going back and playing it, but the reason why I never could is because, I'll be honest, man, like, I don't know. That game must have given me like a little bit of PTSD or something because I have like flashbacks to when I played it, and all that pops in my mind. It's all negative. Not like, oh, I remember ranting about this game or I remember what somebody said about this game. No. I mean literally, like, I remember sitting down and playing it with my wife, and just so many moments where, like, we're just looking at each other like, dude, this isn't good. I'm not enjoying this right now at all. And I'll be honest, I remember when I was playing the game with my wife, there were a lot of parts where I was playing as Abby, and I was like bitching out loud. I'm like, dude, I am tired of playing as this character. Like, I do not care about this character. And I just want to, like, I remember I got to a point where the game where I'm just like, I just want this to end. I just want it to be over. And, I know a lot of people might think I'm like crazy for that, but I just really was like, the problem to me was they gave Abby way too much time, and they felt like they had to because they needed you to like Abby as a character. And it really extended the game to a degree in which, like, we gotta give Ellie enough time to make big mistakes to make you hate her, right? We got to do that, and then we got, or at least not hate her. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if people hated Ellie, but I think I don't know. I think a lot of people were like, "Yeah, Ellie, you're fucked up, man. Like, you're wrong. Like, Ellie, you're completely wrong." I think that that's how a lot of people felt with, once Ellie started taking it too far. Um, but I will say, like, the one thing that I do like about The Last of Us Part Two, it's kind of the thing I don't like about it. It's weird because it's like I respect it for this, but I don't like it. I think that's the best way to put it. I respect the fact that when they wrote the story of The Last of Us, they're like, nihilism is the cornerstone, is the foundation of this story going forward. You know what I mean? I respect that because that is such a fucking wild departure from what the first game was. Like, the theme of the first game was about, it may not seem like it, but it was about, love and loss. And you could argue that that's what the second game was about too, but I would argue no, actually, not at all. If you replay The Last of Us Part 2 and you get to the end of that game, the foundational theme is it's all for nothing. None of it mattered. It's nihilist. It's nihilistic. And I hate that. Like, I fucking despise that, but I respect the hell out of it. If that makes sense. Like, I respect that they're like, we're going to leave people feeling just as empty as Ellie at the end of this game. You're saying the second game is about forgiveness? Maybe. Ellie refuses to kill Abby because of Joel. Yeah, I mean, I guess that works too. I could see that. I can see that perspective. I can see the perspective that The Last of Us Part 2, the ending, like, in order for Ellie to get to that point of forgiveness, she had to experience even more loss. And, the flashback of Joel, she finally forgave him. And in forgiving him, she forgives Abby. Maybe not forgives Abby, but decides she's not going to kill her. Yeah, that makes sense. That adds up. Yeah. But I guess what I'm just saying is that from my perspective as the player, like, when I watch that final scene of the game, Ellie goes up to the house. She's alone. She wants to pull out the guitar and play. To me, she can forgive all she wants. It doesn't matter. That's the point. Now, it could matter. That's what I want to be understood is it could matter because if they do a third game, we could see how that might matter to Ellie, but they didn't give us that opportunity. All right. In my opinion, the way The Last of Us Part 2 ended, it like, we can come to the conclusion like, oh, she forgave Joel. Oh, she finally got over it. Oh, this is why she let Abby go. But look at the final scene of the game. The final scene of the game is Ellie as a complete, what we perceive to be. And again, they don't go any further. She's a broken person, both internally and externally, and that's represented by the fact she can't even play the guitar anymore. And she lost everything. She lost it all. She threw it all away. And so it's like you finally forgave, but it doesn't matter. Now, again, they could change that. If they do a third game and they pick up with Ellie, at that point, the sky's the limit at what they could do. She's forced to move on. Well, that's the thing is like, yeah, this is why I do wonder, like, if they were to make a third game with Ellie, you're saying it would be a redemption arc. I don't even know how they would do that, I mean, they could do it, but it's interesting to think about how far out of their way they would have to go to, because I don't know, man, Ellie did some pretty messed up stuff. All right, let me see. Zenzo76, you're saying, oh my God, I forgot I clicked on you. Hi, MBG. Hello, Zenzo. Sampo, thank you for becoming a member, man. Really appreciate that. So, yeah, the viewership today on the stream, I very much appreciate of everybody who's here. It's obviously not as high because, truthfully, the topics aren't really that stellar. You know, it's a early Monday. There's not a there's no like breaking news necessarily. I saw that the Joseph Staten thing came out, but I don't know. I don't know that I would consider it like major news. Um, and so, you know, I appreciate everybody who's here. You know, you becoming a channel member, man. Again, I'm pushing channel memberships a lot here on the channel. I have things in the works. I'm going to be eventually coming out with some emojis. You guys have been members have been asking for that for a long time. A long time. They've been asking for emojis. So that's something I want to do. And I want to have some other member perks as well. So if you feel inclined, consider becoming a channel member. Thank you for that, Sampo. Brian, you're saying all of those negative emotions you feel about The Last of Us 2 is the game being a masterpiece. You might be right. Maybe the brilliance of The Last of Us is how successfully it got me to love to hate it. But yeah, that could be it, man. But I don't know, man. Like I will say the reason there is a lot of amazing things about The Last of Us Part 2 as a game. And like I've been talking to you guys cuz people think I hate The Last of Us for some reason like and I will admit back when The Last of Us Part 2 first came out, I was a little bit like I don't know if I can ever I don't know, man. I was really questioning like am I ever going to be on board with Naughty Dog as a studio again? But over time when I saw like oh, they're doing a Last of Us multiplayer game, I'm like hell yeah, I'm on board with that, dude. Like, I love the gameplay of The Last of Us. I love the world of The Last of Us. There's so much about The Last of Us I absolutely love. And just because I wasn't the biggest fan of the second game doesn't mean I don't love the universe of The Last of Us and pretty much, you know, a lot it has to offer. And so, to me, I got to say, of all the things that Naughty Dog could do next with The Last of Us, them doing a multiplayer game is great as long as they nail it. I'm very excited to see that. And if they want to do a third game, I gotta admit, like my interest definitely will be there. Like I would be trepidatious, definitely. I would be like, I would not immediately be on the hype train. I know that at The Last of Us Part 3 got announced, everybody's immediately like, yes, and I get that. That's not me. I'm like, okay, where's it going from here? That you know what I mean? Like I'm interested. I see a lot of people are excited. I'm paying attention. I'm curious to see where they go. So how is the sound there, by the way, guys? I'm really delayed, but the last let me see. Edward Jordan and Josh Z, you guys are the last ones to super chat. How many or not how many, how loud was the notification? Was the sound better? People were saying it was too loud, like the codec notification. I did lower it. So if you guys can remember when that went off or the next super chat I end up getting, you can let me know. Saying Abby still lost everyone around her. Yeah. It's still a little loud. Really? I lowered it like drop it to 25. Okay. Yeah, I don't want it to be overpowering. I can do that real quick. Drop this to 25. Yeah, so the next one we get when you hear it, it'll be at 25. And even if that's still are you guys hearing it as I'm editing it or fixing it? Because you guys are saying, okay. Yeah, did we see the Armored Core key art? No, you can't hear it? Okay. So, yeah, the next super chat that comes out or the next membership, let me know how it sounds. I want to get it the right where it needs to be. Edward Jordan, you're saying, so Spider-Man 2 will have Spider-Verse gameplay? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. We'll have to see about that because there's rumors that it's going to, but there's nothing concrete yet. And some people are saying they wouldn't be excited for that. I will tell you this: I've seen a lot of people. There we go. I got a super chat from Aaron. So whenever that notification pops up, let me know how it sounds, guys. But we got confirmation, or not confirmation. Sorry, I'm getting all screwed up with what I'm saying. A lot of people are saying that they are afraid, or maybe not afraid, but they really don't want Spider-Man 2 to dive into the multiverse. Okay? And I will say this, like, I understand, like, a lot of people feel like it's too much multiverse stuff. I get that. You know what? Hold on. So I think I realized these super chats, there's a delay. I'm gonna like lower it so there isn't. Okay, I think I lowered it so there shouldn't be much of a delay now. Hopefully. You're saying it's loud AF. Somebody's saying better. Somebody's saying perfect. Somebody's saying loud AF. Sounds better this time. I could still lower it down to 20. That would be even better. We'll see. There's a big delay in the sounds. It's a work in progress here. All right, I'll put it down to like, I'll put it down to here. If you guys still say this is loud, I'd be kind of surprised. So really quick, I want to ask you guys, because this isn't a, this is the first time I'm doing this and experimenting with it. You guys, somebody said there's a few seconds of delay. Like, how bad is it? So is it like you hear the codec and then the message pops up like 20 seconds later or something like that? Five seconds of delay. Okay, yeah, it should be better now the next time it happens. I did lower that. 5 seconds. Yeah, that's where it was at. There was a 5 second delay on it. I don't know why. I guess it was just automatically like that. It's the other way around. It pops up and then you hear the sound. Okay. So they should be a lot closer now. And I did lower it more. So hopefully it should be good. It's a work in progress. Hopefully the next one though, when it happens again, that'll be it. It'll be squared away, but I'll keep tweaking it as I need to. Josh Z again, you're saying, or you know what, Edward Jordan, let me just finish what I was saying real quick. I understand why people would be nervous and hesitant and maybe unhappy if Insomniac decides we're gonna go the multiverse route with Spider-Man 2, but I don't know, man. I think people need to like, let's give Insomniac the benefit of the doubt. First off, if they do the multiverse, they can do their own version of the multiverse. They don't have to do the one that's established, that people are mainly familiar with right now. But I think people also need to trust in them a little bit that, like, dude, if Insomniac decides that this is where they want to go with their story and their game, I trust them. And that's the thing, is like, I get like the whole multiverse thing feels a little played out, but whatever Insomniac wants to do with the second game of Spider-Man, I fully trust like they know what they're doing. I have no doubt that whatever they choose to do, they're going to nail it and they're going to do a great job. They've given me zero reason to doubt them. And I think a lot of people who are maybe questioning the multiverse thing, if they go for the multiverse and they show that off in a trailer or gameplay, it's probably going to blow people's minds. Like no one's going to be saying, "Oh my god, the multiverse." They're probably be like, "Holy shit, did you see that gameplay?" I think people tend to forget what Sony likes to do, what their studios like to do from time to time, especially a studio like Insomniac. So let's give them some time, give them some space, and when they're ready to show it, I think people are going to be very impressed. Josh Z again, you're saying, I think that Ellie's actions are criticized because people look at them in the wrong context, as in they see her actions through a real world lens. Yeah, that would make sense too, Josh. I mean, look, as I've said, I know that a big part of it. I'll be honest, like I wasn't planning on talking about The Last of Us Part 2 today, but when I looked at like the amount of topics that are available and out there right now, not much going on. This was one of the bigger ones that I thought I could, I'd have more to say about. But when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2, I'm much more relaxed on it now than I used to be. It's like time went on and I accept, people love it. People like it a lot. They think it's a masterpiece, and I have no problem with that. Like, I don't feel the need to argue that. I just, I've just made peace with the fact that the game left a bad taste in my mouth, and I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I thought I would or wanted to. And I'm okay with that. Like, that in my mind, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna not enjoy anything from Naughty Dog again. Um, I just like I think the only thing I'm actually hopeful for with Naughty Dog going forward. Let me get a sip here. Sorry, guys. I got to make sure I'm staying hydrated. I've been talking a lot more now that I'm streaming a lot more, and I notice I have not been drinking nearly enough water. Got to take those hydration breaks. But the thing that I'm, the thing when it comes to Naughty Dog that I'm most hopeful for going forward is, I'll be honest with you, I did not like to see such a divide. I really didn't enjoy that because I don't know how you guys recall the whole situation with The Last of Us Part 2. And this is why I kind of shake my head a little bit at the idea of reliving that with the HBO series. Is Neil Druckmann and that studio, they look, when it comes to politics, and I do not like discussing politics. It's one of the last things that I ever want to do. However, when it comes to a studio like Naughty Dog, they don't hide it. Like, they don't, like, they definitely make it clear, like, politically where they stand. And because of that, a lot of people are looking at some of the things and some of the decisions they're making in their games, and that's why I asked the question earlier, like, I feel like The Last of Us 2 turned into a political conversation, and I realize now, like, that is because of Naughty Dog. And that's fine. Like, I'm not, people are fine to be as political as they like, to believe in what they like, to support what they like. I have no problem with that. That's the beauty of the country of America. Freedom of expression. And I just think that the thing I don't like is that, you know what I noticed occurred with The Last of Us Part 2 is on Twitter specifically. There are a lot of this is where, like, I'm not, I do not want to turn it into a political thing, but there are a lot of interesting characters on Twitter, and Twitter is known to be a place where a lot of these interesting characters dwell. And what made me very disappointed in Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog as a studio is they seemingly, I respect the fact that you want to make a game where you're going to basically create a bit of a divide and you're going to make people have conversations where you pick a side to a degree. I think that can be good. It does remind, like people were saying, remember when Kojima did this with Raiden and Metal Gear Solid 2? And it's like, yeah, like people were like, oh, I either hate Raiden and he's the worst, or, there were people who were like, no, I love Raiden. I think this is interesting. I think he's a great character and I enjoyed it. That's what I mean when I say, like, picking sides. What I didn't appreciate is once the conversation started to get a little bit political, because people will naturally turn it into that. Naughty Dog seemed to be okay with kind of fanning those flames and making it clear, like, which side they stand on, and that shit just made me feel like a bit alienated to a degree. And the problem is like, I'm not an extremist. I don't view myself as an extremist. I view myself as a person who, I have my own beliefs. I have my own thoughts, my own opinions, obviously, my own principles. And what I don't like is when it is very rare that I'm actually ever made out to feel this way, at least in gaming, but it does happen. And it was disappointing to see that Naughty Dog was one of those studios where it's like, when they get involved in that conversation, they basically are telling people like me that we're like, we don't like you and we're okay with the idea of pissing you off and bothering you, and we don't want you really as a fan or a customer. And I'm telling you, dude, like, and it wasn't just Naughty Dog doing it. It's the fact that Naughty Dog was very much on the side of the individuals on Twitter that are very radical, that are very extreme, and they're, again, they exist on both sides. I was just I was just disappointed to see that it's like, dude, look, people, I remember there were people who were going off about, oh, Abby's a trans character or whatever, and I was like, yeah, this is problematic that people are focused, like, saying that and then making that like a focus. Like, dude, people like me are out here trying to just explain, right? Like, and this is what I mean. How it's like it became political so fast. I was out here one day just saying like, "Yo, why do they have to kill Joel like that in the beginning and make it seem like Joel's, you know, like I thought we were gonna play as Joel, and I'm really sad as a fan." And then like the next day, I'm literally see people. It's like the conversation is, "Oh my god, they had a trans character kill Joel," and I'm like, well, that escalated quickly, and it just immediately took off from there, and the conversation, it always turns into some bullshit that it doesn't need to be. And I'll be honest, I think it's a part of it is because, like, let's be real, dude. If you know Neil Druckmann at all, like, dude, they're poking, they're purposely poking is what they're doing. They're trying to stir the pot. They're poking the hive on both sides. And it just bothers me because it's like, I just wanted to enjoy a fucking video game, man. And that's why I'm over here, dude. There's a part of me. I'm looking at, like, okay, so I was watching The Last of Us HBO, right? And with The Last of Us HBO, um, I would, as I'm scrolling through Twitter, I see these like interviews sometimes, like with Bella Ramsey and stuff, and I remember like that. It's like that episode. What was it? Episode 3. I think it was with Bill. And then what was the other episode? Was it 8? I think it was episode 8, the one where it covered the DLC. The one where it covered DLC for the Left Behind, yeah. And both of these episodes like prominently featured like very outwardly like gay characters and gay relationships, which is totally fine. And I like what was crazy, like it happened again. And I just think it's like, look, I was seeing interviews where it's like, well, all these people, I don't know, like Bella Ramsey was going off or something and saying how, like, that I don't remember exactly what she said, but basically talking about the people who have a problem with it. And I'm just like, dude, we need to really get to a point, like, sincerely, we need to get to a point with the stuff where if that's the story you want to tell, you know what I mean? Like, we have gay characters. This is going to be, we're going to have episodes and parts of the game, whatever. Ellie's gay, and that's that's one of the biggest things about the Left Behind thing is, like, she lost somebody that she really cared about. And these are things that are going to be prominently featured. Like, that's fine. Then just let it be what it is. And I think people also need to realize, like, if that's not your cup of tea and you don't like that, you don't, like, just walk away from it. You know what I mean? And this is where I just feel like this is the problem with so much shit these days, where it's like, on one side, you have people who are like, this is going to be a great love story about a gay couple, fine. That's fine. And then with that being said, they automatically know there are going to be some people who aren't expecting it, but they know there are going to be some people who don't like it and have a problem with it. And they also know that, well, those people who don't like it and have a problem with it might say something. You got to just let it go. Like, ignore those people, do your thing, because it's clearly finding success. And to those people who don't like it, it's like, don't watch it. You know what I mean? It's like, this is all it is, man. It's just like, people need to, and I think that's what sucks so much about Naughty Dog as a studio. And I would really just love to figure out, like, what's going on here with this studio specifically. where it's like everything they're doing, it either feels like they're either poking the hive and stirring the pot, or for some reason they just attract like a large swath of people that just want to get angry at what they're doing. And it's like I think about The Last of Us season 2. I'm even thinking about this multiplayer game. And I can see it coming from a damn mile away, man. Where it's like I can tell there's going to be some drama with something. With something. Abby's physique is not possible in The Last of Us. I will say, like, dude, Abby looks like she's on some Anavar. Straight up. She's pretty ripped, dude. I mean, maybe there are some women with certain genes or hormonal profiles that can maybe achieve that naturally, but I don't know, man. I think she was on some Anavar because dude, she was looking pretty buff. And I don't think there's any problem with that. You know, like that's a common thing these days, anyway. Nothing wrong with that. I just think, this is where I just think it's like I remember people were saying the whole conversation like they're gonna have a buff female, who at the time people thought they were like saying she was trans or whatever, and like, oh, we're gonna have that kill straight white male Joel, and I'm just like, okay, look, I don't think that's what's going on. I don't know where people are coming up with that. That's where I feel like people are they're like projecting things like completely needlessly, you know? Um but yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I'm just the reason why I'm excited about the Last of Us multiplayer game is because it's just I'm hoping I can get back to what The Last of Us was to me originally, regardless of Naughty Dog's politics, regardless of anybody else's politics. Like, I'm just hoping that when The Last of Us multiplayer comes out, it's like, dude, here's a really sick post-apocalyptic world with some sick ass, crazy infected clickers and stuff that you've never seen before, and bloaters, and survival is really really tough, and ammo scarce, and the combat is brutally intense, and there might have to be some stealth like that. To me, that's cool, and if they want to have some characters in there and some drama, a little bit of drama here and there, that's fine too. But like, I don't know, man. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think the heart of The Last of Us, and I'm curious to see if people agree or disagree with this, putting the politics aside, okay? Because I ultimately, like, I don't think The Last of Us Part One was that political. I mean, like the questions that are posed at the very end definitely can be turned, like they can become political for sure, and there's a lot of debate. But I think the heart of The Last of Us, thinking back to that first game where it all started, in my opinion, the heart of this game is it's really in its simplicity. It really is. Like, it's a post-apocalyptic world where some bad things happen and people got to do what they got to do to survive. And in that, there's a contrast of here's a man and a girl who both lost, and they're gonna like, they're gonna go on a journey together, and they're gonna become more human in the process. And that's it. Like, that to me, that's the simplicity. It's just the simplicity of that right there. That's what that game was. There's going to be a really nice story between this man who's a fatherly figure to this girl, and you're going to kill some infected, and you're going to kill some bad guys that are not nice people to survive in the process. And that's it. And it's pretty simple. Like, it's a pretty simple concept and a pretty simple story. And I just feel like, I don't know, man, at some point along the way, you're saying to me The Last of Us is the harshness of reality. I agree with that. I do. But I really do. I think that the second game more than anything is more representative of that. in terms of like human behavior, you know. And I think the first game has its moments for sure. Like I think obviously, you know, when the outbreak first happens and you know the guy shoots Joel and his daughter and just kills the kid like it's nothing. Like yeah, that's about as harsh as it gets, right? Like that is I agree with that. Um but I don't know, man. I feel like I think the let me all right, you know what? Cuz I'm really putting more thought into it now. And this is why I like talking about this and thinking about this live because I come up with new ideas and new thoughts. I think with The Last of Us 1 cuz you got me thinking. You like it's the harshness of the world. That's absolutely true. And I think what happens in The Last of Us 1 is that there is in my opinion, perfect balance between the game has its moments where it doesn't seem so harsh and it like shows it there's just these moments where like things don't seem that harsh. They don't. And it feels like you're basically getting a breath of fresh air and it lasts for maybe a little bit. And then the thing happens that's obviously going to happen. It's like, well, saying The Last of Us really left you with PTSD. And well, yeah, the thing happens that is obviously going to happen in the post-apocalyptic world. Well, okay, the the nice moment is over because there are some infected. The nice moment is over because there are some bandits or whatever. You know, and that's the way it's going to be. But then I think where The Last of Us is like where it's truly perfected, and when you watch the show, you can see how it even shows it in the form of a show and not a game, how perfected or how perfect it is it hits you with these moments that are spread out that yes, I think it's exactly that. It shows you the harshness of reality. And it's like a brutal reminder. But then it gets back to that, you know, to that thing. And I guess what I mean is it creates a really nice duality. Like it's really like a nice black and white with a lot of gray in the middle, but you don't spend too much time in any area. You don't spend too much time in the black or the white or the gray. It's perfectly balanced. And I do think like the more I think about The Last of Us Part 2, I think maybe one of the problems I have with that game is I feel like that game spent way too much time in the black. Like it's just like you want harsh, you want grounded. That like there are those moments in the game, but I think that's why when I think about it being a bit messier, being a bit more convoluted, certainly more convoluted. I think that's for me what gets lost in that is that the balance is not as perfect. And yeah, I guess yeah, you're saying it's a pacing issue. People refuse to see it as that. I mean, look, it doesn't I get that like people can overlook some flaws because they like the overall package. And I think that's fine too. I don't know. It's just it's interesting to think about. And I think the reason why this is just still so relevant is because they just released The Last of Us Part 1. They released The Last of Us HBO. These are, you know, I'm replaying this story over and over again. And so The Last of Us Part 2 will be a great, at least season 2, I mean. Last of Us HBO season 2 will be a great opportunity, assuming that they're going to start covering the second game, of course. It'll be a great opportunity for me to kind of refamiliarize myself with that story and what's going on there and see what they can do differently. And who knows? Maybe at that time I'll even go back and play the game. I'm sure they're going to re-release The Last of Us Part 2 for PS5 at some point. But yeah, I don't know. I would dive deeper into the whole political conversation. I don't think people want me to. I don't want to. It's like you can't escape it these days. It's everywhere with all things. And you know, I think that's why the last thing I'll say on that matter before I read these super chats is I think you see a lot of people say politics doesn't belong in video games, right? And people say like we don't want politics in our video games. And there's also, you know, there are people who push back against that and they say no, 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 politics absolutely should be in video games. Politics are in video games. And I think where the problem lies is that the reason, and I feel like I sympathize more with people who don't want politics in video games. I think the reason why a lot of people feel like they don't want any type of politics whatsoever in their video games is because for a lot of people, they go to video games for an escape, right? To get away from reality, because our reality, especially in 2023, is, dude, you can't go anywhere. Politics are everywhere. They're more prevalent than they've ever been, to an annoying degree, and it is to a degree in which people will look at things that maybe, I don't know, maybe some things that probably aren't even trying to be political, but people will turn it into that. And I guess it's up to each studio to decide. Like, I can't help but think about God of War, right? Ragnarok. And I think, like, that I gotta admit, it was so nice with that game. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, God of War Ragnarok, it was really nice to just pick that game up. Everybody was universally excited for it, and there were almost no complaints, man. Like, and no, like, people weren't divided, and I appreciated that. Really, I did, because I feel like that just, like, sometimes it just seems like there's just so much divide with everything. And don't get me wrong, I'm a dude over here talking about Xbox all the time and talking about PlayStation and the competition, and so it's naturally divide. But when it comes to just, like, actually playing games and talking about them and enjoying them, it's like, I don't want to see divide within further divide. It's like, God of War Ragnarok really was a breath of fresh air, because it was just like, this is a game that everybody's loving, and everybody is happy, everybody's in agreement, everybody's looking at each other like, dude, this story's awesome. And I was just thinking about the ending of God of War Ragnarok the other day, and I was just thinking how, like, damn, dude, like, I genuinely feel like that. I know that the game wasn't perfect in the eyes of some people. Like, some people think that Ragnarok had a couple pacing issues as well. Some things were a little bit dragged out, maybe, the Atreus sections and whatnot, and I get that. But generally, I look back at the ending of God of War Ragnarok. I'm like, it was perfect. Like, it was the most perfect ending I couldn't have even hoped for an ending that good for, like, Kratos and Atreus, and how it all worked out. And yeah. Complicated Sam, you're saying MBG changed that ringtone. Why? Why are you guys telling me to change? It's Metal Gear. Why are you telling me to change it? Is it still too loud? Is that the problem? I need to know. Is it still too loud? I definitely don't want to change it. Saying it's fine. No, it's good. It's too loud for sure. See, that's what's strange to me. I'm wondering what's going on here, because a lot of people are saying it's fine. It's still too loud. All right. All right. Give me an update the next time we get a super chat. I'm not changing it. No, I like it. I'm gonna keep it, but I lowered it a little bit more. Okay. I'm wondering how many people are listening with headphones. I wonder if that's what it is. Um, where did I leave off here? Aaron Yogurt, you're saying, imagine if Sony reforms Ubisoft and creates new studios from their remaining talent. I mean, that would be a huge undertaking, though, man. I think that's the problem. It would be an interesting thing. Like, the idea of Sony basically having a lot more studios, a lot more talent, potentially a lot more IP to work with, and being able to mold it into how they see fit. That would be interesting, but I to be honest, I think that would be too much for Sony, because Sony has a lot to handle right now. I know everybody, we talk a lot. Okay, you guys are saying it sounds better. All right. Good. Good. We'll leave it at that then. That's the problem, is I didn't get to really test it out. So, it's a live test bed here. Appreciate the feedback, helping me work on this and figure it out. But I think a lot of people they kind of look at PlayStation Studios, and I think because the conversation has been focused a lot on publisher acquisition because of Microsoft, I think people still fail to realize, like, Sony has acquired quite a few studios, like a lot. They're big. They have a lot of studios. Their studios are very large, and they have a lot to manage. And They have Bungie as well. And so I don't know that Sony wants to spread themselves too thin because, as I said, like, we talk about Media Molecule, it's not perfect everywhere. They still have areas within their own studios that they have to work on and make sure everything's going good. And it's difficult. People I think definitely underestimate how difficult it is to manage that much talent, to manage that much IP. It's not easy. And so a lot of a lot of thought has to go into how much more you want to grow it and in which way you choose to grow it. So, yeah, the whole Ubisoft thing, I'll be honest, I would be very concerned. And I mean this. If Sony came out and announced like we're acquiring Ubisoft, I think at first there would be like a big like holy shit, like everybody would be losing their minds like Sony did it. But my immediate thought after that would be, "Oh, this is dangerous. This is really dangerous." Like this it I don't know how Sony's going to manage that. Um so right now I'm more focused on like Blue Point, Housemark, these newer studios, Deviation Games. I know Sony didn't acquire Deviation Games. Um Haven Studio, they were acquired. Haven't seen them yet. But that would be interesting, Aaron. Edward Jordan, you're saying Burning Shores DLC in 2 days. PS5 Decima graphics slash Death Stranding 2 runs on Decima. Uncanny Valley. Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know, man. I kind of wish the Burning Shores wasn't a DLC. Like, I wish this was more of like a standalone, almost like Miles Morales thing. I don't know why Sony hasn't done this a little bit more. I mean, maybe there's just not enough content there. But even if they just sold it as a $20 standalone thing, because Horizon, like you said, Decima engine, first time we're seeing Guerrilla Games, PS5 only. I feel like it needs to be pushed out there more, and I think it's difficult because the DLC requires you to beat the main game. And I think for a lot of people that's already like, I don't know if you didn't already beat it. Oh yeah, there you go. Space D. PlayStation has 8,000 employees and Ubisoft has 21,000. I really have that many. I don't think Sony can handle or wants that. Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't realize it was that big of a difference. Holy crap, dude. 21,000 employees. Yikes. Yeah, I could tell you if Ubisoft were to get acquired, it doesn't matter who's acquiring them. There's going to be a lot of layoffs. A lot of trimming down. A lot of studios potentially shut down too. So thank you for that, Edward. Josh, you're saying MBG. I'm just getting caught up on yesterday's episode of PXP. Just wanted to add that Insomniac isn't known for releasing 10 out of 10 games. They're known for high quality 8 out of 10 games at an extremely high clip. Yeah, you are right about that. That is true. I have to admit that I think I forget sometimes that we don't when you think about Insomniac's titles, like it's true, they don't really put out like 93 Metacritic games, but they still get such high praise. And so, it makes me interested. I think it would, now I'm thinking about it. How big of a deal would it be if like Spider Man 2 got like a 92 or 93 on Metacritic? That would be pretty big, wouldn't it? Because now that I'm thinking about it, I think what Spider Man 2018 was at like an 88 on Metacritic, 89. But there's just something I don't know. You can tell. Like I know a lot of people are like, who cares about Metacritic? Who cares about reviews? And I agree. I agree with that. However, I also think there's that notion of like, but it hit a 90 or above a 90. Like once a game is sitting at a 90 or above, I think people just look at it differently. A game could sit at an 89, but people will, I think, just naturally they view a game differently if it's sitting at an 89 versus if it's sitting at a 91. I really do believe that. Like I think that just has a different type of influence over people's perception of how good a game is. So I think if Spider-Man 2 can hit the 90 or above mark on Metacritic, I think that'll be a new high point for Insomniac. No doubt about it. Makes me wonder how like a game like Ratchet and Clank, that was like a high 80s game, wasn't it? Hmm. Eric, you're saying The Last of Us had moments of levity, but The Last of Us 2 didn't. Yeah, I think that's what I was basically trying to get at. I explained it really poorly, but I think yeah, that's essentially it. I when I think of The Last of Us Part 2, I don't the only like even even the flashbacks with Joel and Ellie, there was no levity. It was always tense the whole time. It was always about a super serious, super negative. Like the only moment of levity in the game, to be honest, was the intro when Joel sang Ellie that song. And that was it. As far as I can tell, even in the moment of like, when Ellie was with Dina and they had JJ and everything, like I wanted to feel like there was a moment of levity, but instead it was like, well, you know, Ellie's just still going to be obsessed with revenge and have PTSD flashbacks. It's like, okay, like which I appreciate. I want to say I thought that was one of the cooler parts of the game. I thought that was really intense. I think the way that Naughty Dog portrayed PTSD in that way was really interesting and accurate. You know, I thought that was cool. But yeah, I don't think there were many moments of levity, and maybe that is what, in my opinion, the game was missing. Oh yeah, you know what? That's true. That's true. The Joel and you're right. You're right. I don't want to take that away from the game. That when Joel and Ellie visited the dinosaur, or I don't think it was just a dinosaur museum, but there was a bunch. It was just a museum of some kind. That's true. That's true. That was a really good moment. So yeah, and I guess maybe that's where the whole pacing thing comes in. Because it's like I'm actually easily forgetting that there were these moments, but for some reason they're like getting lost in the flow here. I also want to say too, um, last thing about The Last of Us is that I think another problem is that I've replayed The Last of Us 1 so many times. It's just so like I remember so many moments of that game much more than I do The Last of Us Part 2 because I only played The Last of Us Part 2 once versus I played Part 1 like probably like 6, 7 times, not even counting the HBO show. Maybe it's a bit much. Maybe like 4 times, 5 times. So that might be another reason why the first game just still sticks out in my mind so much. Aaron, you're saying I want a Chad jawline Herman Holst emoji. Yeah, I'll have to make that happen, dude. I want to get a Jim Ryan smiling emoji or laughing emoji. I want to get a Jim Ryan crying emoji. I want to get some Mark Cerny emojis. Got to get that scary death stare Mark Cerny, but maybe a nicer Mark Cerny emoji as well. Gotta get that uh Herman jawline Holst. Do the whole thing. It'll be a good time. Get a Kojima emoji. Josh, you're saying one of Insomniac's greatest strengths is making fun, lighthearted video games. Spider-Man is a match made in heaven for them. Now Wolverine will be different. Yeah, that's the thing. Is I agree. I feel like Insomniac I don't know if Insomniac has ever really made a super mature themed game, but I think that Wolverine might be their first time, if I'm not mistaken, like really diving into something that could be very violent and very very mature, much more mature. Were they very mature? Okay, so I guess they do have experience. Honestly, I have no experience with the Resistance games, man. I see people they talk about Resistance all the time. They love those games. Never played them. Never had the opportunity to do so. That's why I've always been like, hey, if they want to bring it back, I'm all here. I'm here for it. I'm all for that. I would love to give them a try. Okay, so they do have some experience there, but it's been a while. Safe to say that Resistance is kind of it's older now, so it's been some time. But yeah, I'm expecting something pretty intense with Wolverine, and I can't wait to see more of it. I'm very excited about it. I hope we see it sooner rather than later. Well, guys, with that being said, I think this is going to be the end of episode 2 of Hype or Rant with MBG. Now, again, um, before I close the show out, my goal, as I said, is to hopefully do this Monday through Friday. You're saying you just joined? It sucks, dude. My goal is to do this Monday through Friday, and I'll obviously have my normal videos coming out as well. But today I think was an interesting one. This is to me the first episode. I mean, I've only done 2 episodes, but this to me is the first episode I've done where, frankly, there's like not really any breaking news of any kind. Like, there's no significant news. It's like, we're talking about some media molecule. It's a pretty relaxed episode, I would say. There's not a whole lot of ranting, not a whole lot of hyping. And so I'm gonna be curious to see as this show goes on in the coming weeks. Surely there's going to be some more some spicier topics that happen to crop up, and I'm curious to see how it goes. And so I want to give a big thank you to everybody. If you donated a super chat, thank you so much. I really do appreciate the continued support. Big shout out to all of my channel members, and my goal will be to be back here tomorrow again at 12 p.m. Eastern time for the next episode of Hyper Rant with MBG, and we'll see what we have to talk about then. But that does it, guys. Hit the like button on your way out, and I will catch you all